Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to education technology class. In this class, this is actually week 8. In this class, we are going to explain about projected media. What does it mean? What types of projected media? And so on. So how could we define projected media? Projected media could be any media formats in which still images are enlarged and displayed on a screen. And it's not about only still images. We can also enlarge uh, movies or films using the LCD. So anything that is actually projected and enlarged to be displayed in front of an audience is called projected media. So what are the characteristics of the projected media? Projected media give us the ability to produce large image and visuals on screen for a big audience. And it can be used in bright light or projected images. Of course, it is going to need electricity to actually power the device that we are going to use as a projector. And it meant actually to be for a huge number of audience or, for example, students and so on. And it gives the ability to the presenter to face the audience at all time instead of being busy writing on the board. So this is one of the very important advantages of projected media, and presentation will be more attractive and interactive, of course, so that the speaker is not actually busy with writing on the board. He will spend actually, or he or she will spend more time engaging with the students, despite the fact that the presentation itself looks colorful, looks alive, and the students will be involved during the whole class. And there has been a lot of projected visuals. For example, we have the overhead projection as the first invented device that give us the ability to project media in front of audience, but it requires a lot of preparation and requirements and so on. Anyway, we are going to discuss all these devices one by one. First, we have the overhead projector. Overhead projector is one of the projectors that we used to actually use, and it's quite old now. Almost nobody uses it, but it used to have a very huge device, and it needs like a table or a trolley to move it around, and we actually need to turn off the light in the room so that we can see. And then we have the opaque projector, which is actually a system of mirrors. It is actually a device that displays opaque materials. And what I mean by opaque materials is kind of dark materials that we cannot see, and this device actually shine a bright or a lamp into the object from above. So there is actually a lamp from the above of the object, and then by the system of the mirrors that are used to focus an image of the material, onto a viewing screen. So actually there is an object, and there is a lamp, a light above this object, and through all these mirrors around the device it could be projected on the viewing screen. And then thirdly, we have the film projector. Film projector used to be the only way back then, very, very old, to actually project films or movies, which is by moving the jack of the film projector, but it's quite old nowadays. Nobody is still using it. Then we have the very famous device LCD, which is a liquid crystal display projector that is actually nowadays used in almost every educational institutions. And then we have the film stripe projector, and the same idea, it's for film projection. And then we have the laser projector. This laser projector actually only project or present words or shapes or whatever it contains of laser lights. And then we have the slide projector, which aims to actually project slides. And then we have the visualizer, which is to actually make visualization for objects. And then finally we have a TV, and who knows what is actually coming next under the category of projected media. Okay, so this one that we used to have, the overhead projector, is actually it was the most popular projected media during the 80s and 90s. As I mentioned, it's quite old, and the first projected media that we used at a time, and it's a huge, heavy, needs a trolley to move it around, not easy for us to carry, and actually the first projected media, and then the first presentation media which enabled the presenter to face the audience. So this was actually the first device that gives actually the ability for the speaker or the teacher to face the audience, talk with them, discuss with them, instead of writing, spending all the time of the lecture writing on the board. And there's actually three types of OHP, which is the desktop, portable, and then the visualizer. Back then, when they used to actually employ this OHP in their classes, they used different types of transparencies, and it has many requirements actually to use. We need for example a transparent, and there's actually different types of transparencies. There's a plastic type, and there's a plant paper, and there's a coated, glossy, and so on. So it depends on your purpose. What are you going to do with the transparency? And your transparency needs to be actually clear, and you don't have to put so many items, so students will not be distracted by the colors and so many words and so on. And we will get to see the some of the conditions that we needed to follow back then when we used transparency. As you can see, guys, these are some types of the transparency. If you use a clear transparency, then for example a white transparency, then you should use a very clear font, for example blue or black. you know, it's actually a must to avoid any distraction colors or so many colors and so on. And to make this a transparency, there's a transparency maker, and it's actually like a thermofax and a photostat machine. It's like a printer, and there is actually color, laser, and black, and it's like a printer, but only for transparency. So whatever material that you need to use into your class as a teacher, you need to actually prepare this kind of material in your computer and then print this material using a transparency maker. And then when it's ready, you only then can use the OHP to present your class or material and so on. And here are the principles that I have just mentioned about using the transparency design. It's one transparency, one idea. You have to be very clear. You need to be direct to the point to make it actually clear to be noticed by the students. You need to separate complex information. You need to use about 7 words in one line only, or else it's not going to be clear, because it's all depends on the lighting. It's actually an A4. Imagine there's an A4 paper, okay, and then this paper you put it on a scanner, because OHP very much like a scanner. You put it in the scanner, and this scanner is going to actually project the words in this file or this document to the screen or to the wall, for example, or to the board. So you need to use a very big and nice and you know clear fonts so that the students can read it. And only 7 lines in each transparency. And you need to use a suitable font size, for example, not less than 24, and for the content, not less than 14. And we will see about the color combination and what conditions that we need to follow when we need to select the color. So following to the design principle, there's actually, you know, different types of colors. There's actually they call it cold colors and hot colors. And when you want to design the perfect viewing for your slides or your whatever projection that you are using, you need to make sure to avoid any distraction. Do not type the same color as your background. Do not use a colorful background in your presentation. Your presentation needs to be very clear. For example, if you want to use a yellow background, then go for a black fonts and so on. So all these requirements needs to be taken care of to make sure your presentation is in its best way and to be clear and to be noticed by your audience. And for the OHP presentation techniques, there are actually a lot of things that we actually need to be aware of before using OHP. First, we need to switch off the device itself when we want to change the transparency. We cannot simply take the transparency and then put the other one without switching off the device. And we used to use a pointer to show something on the screen. We cannot actually find something like this in PowerPoint. I simply select the pen and then point out any words or any sentence that I want to explain about. But back then there was no any features or tools that could actually give the ability to do such a thing. And there is more techniques that we needed to be aware of. For example, using the overlay, masking, switching off the lamp, switching, closing all windows of the room to make it as dark as we can, and then finally write directly on transparency. Whatever you write on the transparency, you are going to see on the screen. And of course, when it was first invented, there was a lot of advantages for using OHP in teaching and learning process. Transparency can be used rapidly, and presentation can be delivered systematically, because it's the first time to actually try something like that. First time to project on the screen while you are delivering your class or lesson. Presenter face the audiences almost all the time. You are not busy anymore with writing on the board. You actually prepare everything, prepare the materials that you have, prepare the lesson that you have, and then what you are going to do is engage your students in your classroom. Presenter have full control of the materials. You are the only one with the control of the materials, and then presentation will be more effective with using color and illustration, but you need to be aware of the colors combination. You need to avoid any distraction, any color that may be not very clear to see while presenting. And finally, it saves cost, time, and easy to use. These are the advantages of the OHP that we still actually relate these advantages to any projected media. Even though we use LCD right nowadays, it's almost the same advantages as the OHP. Now we've come to the slide design. Slide design, guys, is very important, not for you as a student only, but it's actually very important to you when you go to the work life as well. So there's actually many conditions that you need to follow when you want to present something. When you want to present or use slides, avoid writing down everything on the slide. I've seen students, they are just copying and pasting from Microsoft Word to Microsoft PowerPoint, and then they call it a slide. This is not a slide. It's called PowerPoints. You know why it's called PowerPoints? Because you only need to use points and make it powerful. So only use the headline, and then the rest you just explain by yourself. Minimize bells and whistles. Okay, overuse of eye-catching feature is distracting. Do not use so many objects. You can use one picture, two, depends on your purpose or your syllabus or the content, but do not use so many. So many is always distracting for the audience. For the font, try to make it clear, try to make it big and readable for the audience. Background, avoid any colorful backgrounds, avoid any images or some photos. I've seen some students using, for example, wallpaper as a background in the PowerPoint. This is not a good idea. And finally, use appropriate graphics. Select to create graphics that effectively communicate the message. Try to use the most proper image that actually serves your purpose to avoid any distraction in your class. And here are some of the formats that you need to follow for using the proper font. Make it easy to read. Avoid any so complicated points. Make it big enough or large enough to ensure readability, and the color contrasts with the background, as I'm going to mention later on. As you can see here, this is totally unaccepted fonts. They are not suitable actually to read, even the letters. So try to make the font type more readable, more clear, big enough so that the audience will not complain about any technical parts of your design. And here some of the color contrast that you need to follow. For example, this is the best color combination. If you want to use a yellow background, then go for black text, okay? And if you want to go for black background, then go for yellow text, and so on. This is the best combination, the first table. While on the other hand, there is a fair visibility, for example, yellow and red, red and black. It's not good, but it's still readable. And there are the third category, which is the poor. There is this category is actually the most difficult for the audience to read your slides. So avoid using these combination of colors. For example, red and blue, red and green, and so on. As I mentioned earlier, this is regarding the background. Try to use a background that is very light color with very few objects if you need to actually use object. So use a light colored background. Busy wallpaper backgrounds can be distracting. Dark text on light background versus light text on dark background. And to ensure there's actually a very good communication between you and your audience, you need to keep the number of words to absolute minimum. As I mentioned, it's called PowerPoints. Then use only points and then explain it by your own words. Overuse of eye-catching features is distracting. Minimize use of sound only if enhances presentation. For example, for the transitions between the slides, there's no need to use any sound effects actually. Make it silent is better, but you need to be a powerful presenter to actually gain your audience attention. And always, this is my advice, go for a template, because when they design the template, they design it based on some principles of using the colors, backgrounds, and so on. So when you use a template, it's going to be like a shortcut for you to use the appropriate colors, backgrounds, and images as well. And use appropriate graphics. As I mentioned, do not mislead when you want to choose your graphics. If you want to explain about Apple, then choose apple only. Do not combine apple with any kind of fruit, for example. All right. Okay, now we've come to the projection screen. Types of screen and the screen size, and what are the conditions that we need to follow when we use the screen. Types of projection screen: we have the mate wide screen. It is actually a thick white cloth or canvas, just like the ones in our class room, with white and smooth surface. This is the white color actually helps to project all the media that we have despite of the color, because since the background is white, then everything else is going to be projected. Then we have glass beaded screen, display better visual than matte screen, work best in small and long room, highly recommended for LCD projectors. And we have the silver surface screen, and this is the best screen for continuous color picture and provides 100% sharpness, and audience can see from more than 50 feet. And it actually used widely in movies theater. And this is an example of how we could actually place our screen. The screen is A, and then the screen, some of the calculations that we need to follow to make sure all of the audience get the chance to actually see what is going on the screen. And here is an example of the matte screen. As we can see, the first picture, and then the second picture is the glass bedded. And here is the formula that we use actually to place the screen size, or apply the screen size, the appropriate screen size. The screen size have to be appropriate to the room and the audience size. So this is the formula we actually follow. And this is an example of the screen size and how the audience is placed, and how the screen width and heights and so on. So an example of placement of the screen, which one do you prefer? We have the one in the corner, and then we have the one in the middle, and then we have one in the corner, but this is actually a small class, so it's considered to be in the middle of the class. I personally prefer the one in the middle, because students are going just to naturally look ahead. They don't need to turn left or right during the class. And for the projection, for example, the LCD, where should we place the LCD? This diagram shows the placement of the overhead slide and 16 millimeter film projector equipped with typical lenses. This is actually an example of the projector placement, or what should we actually consider before we put the LCD in the most appropriate place. And this is more examples of the LCD and how the audience can get the chance to actually be able to see. We have one in the corner here, and then one in the middle, and then the other one on the other corner as well. So that's it for this class. I hope everything was clear, and then we will meet online and discuss again if you have any further questions. And regarding the quiz, the e-learning activity, I'm going to post the e-learning activity after the class so that you get the chance to take your time and solve it. So with that being said, I hope everything is being healthy and safe, and see you guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.